The course really helped me to enhance my investigative skills when it comes to doing more research and being able to bring out the real issues rather than just report on glossing matters.
The course was very insightful and it made me feel the real essence of journalism being part of the fourth estate.
It was really interesting and it was really wide because we managed to cover so many things.
The whole course was so much informative. I get to learn so much things. I had to meet my friends and get to know more of different fields and how to cover them.
I found it very enlightening and very informative.
It has been a learning experience and I've got an opportunity to learn things that I thought I could never get an opportunity to learn.
The content and the curriculum of the course, it brought me back to the class situation and still I managed to have fun.
The selection of the topics was awesome.
It has helped me to diversify my thinking in terms of what business entails and how I'm going to approach issues to do with business, financial market.
I came here expecting to be taught majorly about the world, about work, about storytelling. I learned much more about myself. It's about unlocking what already exists within.
One of the things that I really learned as a journalist is the need to do in-depth analysis and to go beyond, the obvious, to tell the story from a different point, to tell the stories from different angles, and to go dig deep for the numbers, to dig deep for the facts.
I found it very interesting to learn about how I can use data to break down a story and to tell my story using 3 or 4 figures.
I've known so much about data reporting, I've known so much about financial reporting, of which in the past has been quite of a challenge to me.
There were very many interesting things. First is putting a human face to a business story. Most of the time the business stories are kind of not approachable because the business reporters quote I could say the big people, but here we were taught how to put a human face whereby you can make a story more interesting by putting a human angle.
2 areas stood out for me: the economics lecturer, and that particular unit was very important because in our day-to-day reporting there are so many aspects that do happen and we report on. For example, Central Bank does issue the Monetary Policy Committee, and this is an area that most journalists, we struggle to report on.
Everything was as realistic really gets. It's about case studies, analyzing cases, seeing how people solved problems, and how that's relevant today in the workplace, and not purely academic approach that we are used to in this country. I think that's very important for me.
And most interesting of all was when Monica Keretz taught us on the issues of data journalism. We were told on how to report accurately and how data can add content and put authority to your story.
Data journalism was quite interesting. I've been practicing it for a few months, but now with this knowledge, now I can actually improve on my skills. I've learned a lot about data. I've learned how the intersection between data and journalism. I've learned where to dig this data and how to present it.
In data reporting, basically I learned to know that I can be using data in terms of writing a story, in terms of coming up with a story, that there are so much things we need to know. Apart from the normal reporting you are doing, we can use data in terms of figures, in terms of facts, you put together with a very informative and a very detailed, and also you investigate something and come up with a very nice story.
During the course, I have been taught how to manage upward. Basically, we were told that this entails how I should handle my boss, right from the way I should communicate to him when there is a crisis. And this applies as well to the other colleagues in the office.
Learning how the stock works, the stock market, the current trends, and in the financial markets. Those were one of the most topics that I found it very educative and most interesting.
All of it was interesting, but the things that stood out for me was, number one, the strategy session. It was fantastic. Then the other thing I really liked was securities market. we really had interesting conversations around that. Then the third one that I think stood out for me as well was the economics class, talking about how global markets impact our market and trends and those kind of things, plus lessons from Singapore and the rest of them was very interesting as well.
Most importantly was data journalism. I thought that was very, very important. It resonated with the most prevailing trends where our careers and where our jobs are headed to. And that's from reporting to issue analysis. And I felt that that's more impactful because, you know, what do you do with information already out there? What do you tell people when information is readily available? So I felt that if you're in a position to analyze, put resources into research, have analysts, statisticians, and everyone else join hands and do quality reporting, you can easily change the face of the world.
What stood out of me was on issues to do with the data journalism, which was actually, I had a lot of handicap in terms of how I can be able to grasp with the information when I go there. So what stood out of me was I'm able to understand how to do my work with a lot of data, so that to diversify my writing, so that my readers are able to know how best I approach issues of angles of the stories.
Data journalism, critical thinking, and leadership and management. Yes.
Best lesson was on economics. That was interesting. Knowing how the world economy works, how microeconomics works, macroeconomics, and also data journalism was very important. And also the issue of personality, knowing yourself and managing your boss.
Leadership was very interesting when we talk about things like managing upwards, managing your boss, things that we don't normally think about because we think about leadership as being up, down, never down, up.
Personally, it's going to help things to do with managing your boss and your communication styles.
Topics such as public policy, managing upward, and data journalism were some of the key issues that were so passionate to me.
Data journalism. For now, I can be able to know how data can be used to come up with clear and concise news articles that can impart the audience out there.
There's financial reporting, which of course has always been great for me. I really wanted to know how to crack this. Economics, I didn't look at myself enjoying economics until I came here and looked at it from that point of view.
I enjoyed financial reporting, mostly when we had a lot of challenge in terms of how most global economic issues are affecting most countries.
The most enjoyable lesson was about the cyber crime. That anything you do in social media can be used sometimes to mean something else different. It can also be used against you, and also you need to be so much cautious when doing anything in terms of what you're posting online, what you're putting on social media services. But also another one was about financial reporting. It was a very nice field because I've learned so much about the stock market and how to calculate the figures and come up with a story.
I think the question is, has it already changed? I think it has already changed how I look at the issues that I've been reporting on. It has already influenced how I report, how I look at issues, not from a singular point of view, not separating issues from society, separating issues from the nation, separating issues from their immediate environment, which is what we do most of the time.
It's good that I'll now be able to analyze issues better than I would do it before.
I think it's important as a journalist to know all the facets of management, even because journalism is not just about going out there and bringing the story. It's about coming back and negotiating with your editor and using your management skills that you have learned from maybe such a course to pitch a story to him and make him see the value of a story, no matter how mundane the story may be, because mostly business and development stories are not given the same kind of coverage or the same kind of attention like political stories.
When I go out there in the field, I can be able to use all these skills that I've learned here so that I can come up with nice packaged story that if it is going to be out there, it can be able to create a likeness whereby people can understand, it can be in-depth, very clear, and people can understand more elaborately.
I want to move my reporting into a place that it sets agendas, it drives policies, not just conversations on social media, but real action-based policies where people can take note and start looking at issues more importantly and with the deserved respect they need.
In so many ways, from what I've learned, especially on financial reporting, I know how to report on financial matters in terms of stock exchange, calculations, knowing how they're making profit or going down at some point. So this, I believe, will help me so much, not only me in person, but also as in my media company.
From here, I'm going to take one lesson away with me: issues. I'll make sure that I discuss issues and make sure my work is content-driven. And I'll package my information in such a way that it's palatable and it can be understood by anyone out there, such that they can read the story, understand it, and take away the notion that business is just for working class people, and people should realize business is just for everyone.
It gives me a lot more awareness about things that happen here, how they impacted from the global space. Number two, it gives me, it helps to shape my understanding of things to do with data, IT, things with data security and all that. It gives you sort of background so that when you're talking about those things now, you have some sort of understanding of where it's coming from and where it's going.
In my reporting, one of the things that I've been looking at and things that I've learned is just not to look at Kenya in isolation. It needs to be looked at in the global context, in the regional context, and how the Kenyan economy impacts on the regional economy. So that's one of the things that I think I'm beginning to look at things in a broader scale.
I appreciate the fact that this course has allowed me to understand and make me to diversify my writing in terms of business perspective.
I'm hopeful that I want to change how I report on my stories, including issues to do with the data, because at the end of the day, we have to get the facts out and trying to ensure that we are ethical in our reporting. That's one of the other areas that I'm looking forward to changing in my reporting. And of course, going a notch higher when it comes to holding people to account, because journalists, we do report, but we rarely do follow up. So from today henceforth, trust me, we'll be holding more people to account.